the invitation to participate in this interesting seminar. I will be happy to present Idogen together with our CSO, Åsa Schött. We have decided to split the presentation in two pieces, so we will take different parts of that. But I will start to present the company and the agenda that we have for today. Is initially a brief introduction to the company and what we are doing. We will focus on key activities that we have done to get into a position where we are now. We are now in a very interesting position where we are moving from a preclinical into a clinical stage, which is a position where you normally can say that you in the future will have interesting milestones that also would be opportunities to re-evaluate the company on the route forward. And I think that's an important understanding. So we will share with you what we have done about the cell therapy market, add a little bit more specifically on the discussion that Agneta started earlier. We will also go into activities for this year. Åsa will talk about the technology and also how we apply this in the specific diseases and conditions that we are treating with our tolerogenic cell therapy in the key projects. And then I will end the presentation with talk about organization and what we see forward from this. Short introduction about the company. We are a biotech company developing tolerogenic cell therapy, and we are located in Lund. The company was founded in 2008, and we currently have 16 employees within the company. We are since June 2020 listed on the Nasdaq First Growth market in Sweden. And in terms of IP, we have a patent application for a new technology that was upgraded only 2 years ago, which gives us a very interesting IP position for the future. We sent in a local application in the UK in December 2019, which we also upgraded in December 2020 into an international PCT application. Our tolerogenic cell therapy, that is a platform technology. We will cover that more in this presentation. But the first development project is targeting hemophilia patients that has developed neutralizing antibodies for their standard of care treatment, which is the clotting factor 8, and that we had a nice solution to take care over this tolerogenic cell therapy. We'll go more into detail on that. We also, which is interesting, has also an external evaluation we received in 2017, the European Horizon 2020 funding, where we actually got 2.9 million euro, which was partly financing to take Idogen 8 into the market as a treatment. So this is, so to say, an external assessment of the project as such, also enabling us to get external funding, which is important, I should say. We are now at a very interesting stage where we will start first in human study. And we expect to get an approval to start in the end this year or early next. And our financial status is that we, at mid this year, was around 30 million Swedish kronas on cash. And also we have for the upcoming weeks a warrant that will give us additional fundings into the company. So what is cell therapy? That was also mentioned broad from Agneta, in a way taking all ATMPs into consideration. What we say from Idogen is that cell therapy aims to treat diseases by using cells to repair or change other cells in the body. And the cells are cultured outside the body before being injected into the patient. And these cells can both be from the patient itself, and then you call it the autologous cell therapy. If it comes from a donor, then it's called allogenic cell therapy. And our technology is autologous. We are using the patient's own cells for the treatment. Our tolerogenic platform aims to treat conditions and diseases when the immune system has been your own enemy. And here we have pointed out 3 different situations: anti-drug antibodies, situations when the immune system attacks biological drugs and want to take away the effect. The body recognizes that this is not something from the body and then try to destroy it. This is how the immune system works, and we have a solution for that. Transplantation rejection, that's also a situation where you give something which is foreign into the body. These patients get lifelong immunosuppressive treatments to pressure down the immune system's effect on the transplanted organ. This is good, but has also negative side effects on the patient. You get more at risk for severe infections. You also get a higher risk of cancer. And also some of these treatments also gives a direct negative impact on the organ itself. And that is common for example, kidney transplantation. This can also cause diabetes when using them long term. So here is a medical need for something that potentially would be able to lower the doses of immunosuppressants and as a benefit have the patient going with the organ longer. And then we have a big, in the third case, group of autoimmune diseases when the immune system erroneously attacks the body's own tissues and cells. And that is a big group of diseases, which we also will cover. But our development, our tolerogenic platform, is aiming to turn off or take away these unwanted attacks from the immune system, if we simplify this quite a lot. If we look into this into a structured way, I have mentioned the platform. This is what you see on the left hand. This is also how we have decided to patent this. We have a platform that we are starting from, and on that we apply different projects. And here you see on the right-hand side the project Idogen AB, which is the first, which is creating tolerance for the standard of care treatment factor 8 in Hemophilia A. The next is Idogen, which is a treatment to prevent rejection in organ transplantation, and Idogen AB is the third project. 2 years ago, we took a very important decisions within the organization. We decided to partner to develop the manufacturing process of our technology. Radboud University Medical Center in the Netherlands is world leading in manufacturing cell therapy based on dendritic cells. And this is actually what we are doing also. So we are partnering with them to take our innovation into a product that we can use for the clinical trials. This is a win-win situation for both parties. And it's also like that we own, so to say, the development and the process after this. So this is a partnership, but we are, so to say, gaining a lot for the future here, where we also can bring that forward. The collaboration is also with Professor Yolanda de Vries. She has done this for more than 20 years. And we have now taken our process from our lab in Lund, and we have then built up the processes so that we can have it in GMP setting when we start the clinical trial for Hemophilia A project. And one benefit of what we have done is that we can transport the cell therapy frozen from the manufacturing site in the Netherlands to the patient. Key activities in the past. As I said, in June 2019, we upgraded our current tolerance inducer, a key component in the cell therapy, which is also patentable, and that allows us, if approved, to have a market exclusivity for additional 20 years until 2040. This is I think, very important part for the future. In November, we signed the partnership with Radboud, and in December 2019, we also sent in the patent application. 2020 was a very busy year. We initiated the tech transfer to Radboud, also starting to prepare the clinical trial, phase 1, phase 2 for Idogen AB. We had a lot of regulatory discussions to be able to very much define what's needed and what is requirement from the authorities, since we are acting in an area where we not have really competitive products. We have performed a lot of preclinical documentation. We have also updated our patent application, and we performed a listing and uplisting from Spotlight up to Nasdaq First North. And in the meantime, we also made a lot of business development, sharing what we're doing with larger companies that is involved in this area, looking into interesting projects. And the question you can ask is the market ready for cell therapy? Is the hospital, the physicians, the patients, or the payer willing to start use these products? We are most probably, as Agneta was pointing out, in a state where we are at a tipping point, when this moving from being seen as more experimental into be a clinical part for severe patients, not for all, but those where we have a big medical need. Looking into this more schematic build, and we take us back around 10 years, then you can say that cell therapy was very much experimental. Researchers, hospital was able to do their own cell therapy in small scale, but this has moved a lot forward the past 10 years. And now we have not only the first commercial product out there, but we have several of them. And this has opened up for a very interesting route forward when other companies, such as Idogen, then is moving into the market and start to do the first clinical trials. From being something what was experimental, I should say that we are moving into something where you build up global distribution and manufacturing sites. You also are able to get lower costs and make the production more efficient. So this is a process going on, and I think that will also be a very important part of this tipping point. When Agneta say, if we're looking back 10 years ahead from now, what will we see? And I think that is what you see on the right hand on this slide. Another trend in the market is there is a fast development in this area, and there is an increasing pipeline. And there is also significant in terms of increasing investments in this area. Innovations are today within small, mid-sized biotech companies, but the resources to be on the right-hand side for commercialization is more in the big pharma companies. So here we see an interesting route for the future. The current trend is also that the big pharma companies, and name Pfizer, Novartis, Roche, Takeda, Stella, Sanofi, and others, they're all entering into these markets and looking for interesting projects for the future. And some people say that this is a game changer, both for the patient, but also for the industry and how we need to work in the future. I'm just taking some statements from some stakeholders in this area. MIT in Boston, the estimates that it will be between 50 to 30 cell and gene therapy products that will be launched in the next 5 years. FDA estimates an approval of 10 to 20 cell and gene therapies products per year 4 years from now. And the market value will explode up to a value of 40 billion by 2024. If we then look into Idogen's market potential, since this is cell therapy and the cost per treatment is higher, yes, as Agneta was pointing out, this is potentially a way to cure a disease instead of treating symptoms. But there is an upfront cost that can be perceived as high. Then we have, as a target market in my slides that you will see the next few minutes, we have taken out North America, Europe, and Japan as target market, not to include market where we not today have the financial opportunities to go for this kind of treatments. If you first look into the hemophilia market, this is a large and growing market. Hemophilia A has around 150,000 patients globally, and the market is growing in value in the mid scenario around 6% per year. That will most probably be higher than that, taking in consideration the launch of new products. So already now, the treatment costs for these patients is high. The standard of care treatment with factor VIII is around 100,000 euro per year. If you go for the newer treatments, the annual cost is around 450,000 euro per year. If we look into the target market, we said we had 150,000 patients globally. Pointing out the target markets, North America, Europe, and Japan, the market then is around 56,000 patients. Of these patients with hemophilia A, around 1/3 of them develops antibodies towards the treatment with factor VIII. And that leaves us around 18,000 patients that needs to have something else than clotting factor VIII. You can try to create tolerance by giving very high doses of factor VIII over a period, maybe 1 to 2 years. And that is somewhat helpful, but still you have 1/3 of these patients that is not possible to treat that way. So if you go for this small group of patients, then in the target market, you will be around 6,000 patients in this group. This indication has orphan drug designation, so it's seen to be rare. However, if you can show this to be efficient, why should you not start the treatment potentially earlier and to target this group? Transplantation is a huge market. Around 90,000 patients a year gets a new kidney after transplantation, and around 25 to 30% of them gets a kidney from a living donor, and this is what we are targeting here. Going in to the global market, then selecting our target market, which is North America, Europe, and Japan, gives us 44,000 transplantations a year, leaving those with living donor, which is the one that we are targeting. And also I will tell you more about that in her presentation soon. If we go for that, there will be 11,000 patients a year that would potentially be a target for this treatment. Here, the objective is to get the patients to live longer on the treatment. Today, we have patients that needs to have a retransplant after 10 to 15 years. And the objective with treatment is for sure to potentially get the organ to stay longer in the body. And that is the target. Having that said, I want to hand over to Åsa that will give an introduction to the technology and our key projects.
Thank you. And I hope everybody could see me and hear me now. Yes?
Yes.
As Anders... Sorry?
Sorry, we hear you, Åsa. Just
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. Okay. As Anders said, I will give you an introduction to the Idogen's technology. So the cells that we are using at Idogen in our cell therapy technology platform are these guys here, the dendritic cells. I will just get the pointer. That is here. Can you see the pointer now?
We
Yes.
see the pointer. Yes.
So we are talking about these cells here, the dendritic cells. And the dendritic cells are really important cells in the immune system. And they actually orchestrate the immune system, and they do it antigen-specific. They could actually distinguish between enemy and friend, and by directing the immune system into different paths, depending on if you get, for instance, a bacteria infection, the dendritic cells engulf, eat up the bacteria, and actually present a part of the enemy to the T cells, and you get an activate specific immune response towards the bacteria infection. And this could also be seen here in this picture. Here is a large dendritic cell with its long dendrites, and here are the T cells that actually get the antigen presented by the dendritic cell. So a part of the enemy. But on the other side, it can also distinguish a friend, the self-tissue, and therefore not activating the immune system. But then you have unwanted attacks, as Anders talked about, that you actually get an immune response towards biological drugs, for instance, factor VIII treatment, and there the immune system start to produce antibodies that actually inhibit the treatment. And you can have this situation, of course, when you transplant a kidney into a recipient, and then the immune system reacts because it's not self-tissue. And in the autoimmune situation, you get an unwanted attack to the self-tissue by the immune response. And it's there where the Idogen's tolerogenic cell therapy comes in, because it reprograms the immune response in an antigen-specific manner. And it's doing it by developing or culturing the dendritic cells toward a tolerogenic dendritic phenotype, and load these cells with a friend that should be dampened and be tolerized against. And they do it by inducing regulatory T cells, the peacemaker, that will dampen the immune system and inducing a prolonged tolerance against the antigen. And I will then walk you through the proposed mode of action for tolerance induction by the Ido 8 project cells. So first, you start with the starting material, and that is the monocytes, and you add our cocktail, the tolerance inducers. You load the cells with factor VIII, and then you have an ITOL-DC028. And the mode of action of these cells is to induce regulatory T cells specifically towards factor VIII, and also an expansion of these regulatory T cells. These T cells can block, for instance, the effector T cells that actually have an effect towards factor VIII. It also blocks the B cells, and the B cells are the immune cells that produce antibodies. So here you have the plasma cells, and at the end, the regulatory T cells block production of neutralizing antibodies, and it's actually antibodies towards factor VIII that we loaded our cells with. And at the end, it also creates and increase a cascade of developing immature disease to more tolerogenic dendritic cells. Then we are saying that the Idogen's tolerogenic cell therapy is patient-tailored, as Anders said before. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we actually take the patient's cells. We take cells from the patient itself, and we do it by making an apheresis. And then we purify the monocytes from the cells, from the patient. And then we actually ship the monocytes to the CMO in Holland, where we produce the tolerogenic dendritic cell under GMP manufacture. And there we, of course, add our tolerance inducers and also the disease-specific antigen. And the cells that we produce are then tolerogenic dendritic cells that are disease-specific. These cells are frozen down and shipped back to the patient that actually produced it from start. And we give IV administration 1 to 3 injection to the patient. The prioritized projects at Idogen are the following. And as Anders said, we are going into different indications. We are going with the Ido 8 project into the indication of Hemophilia A patient with inhibitors. And the goal is to recreate tolerance for factor VIII treatment. We have the Ido T project with the indication of kidney transplantation. And there the goal is to prevent rejection in organ transplantation. And we have also the Ido 8 project. And there the goal is to treat autoimmune diseases. And in the Ido 8 project, as I said, we are having the indication Hemophilia A patient with inhibitors. And these patient groups have a genetic deficiency in the clotting factor VIII. The standard of care for this patient group is factor VIII treatment because they lack to produce it themselves. But in 30% of the patient, the immune system attacks and destroys the factor VIII treatment by producing antibodies towards factor VIII. And here in the cartoon here, beside, you can see what happens when you get a damaged blood vessel in the normal situation or in the Hemophilia A patient group. In the normal situation, the blood clotting system or protein will heal the blood vessel. But in the Hemophilia A, lacking production of factor VIII, it's a disorder of the healing, and therefore they need treatment with factor VIII. But in 30% of the patient group, they will start to produce antibodies against factor VIII, and they inhibit the effect of the treatment. And there the aim of this project is to reprogram the immune system to tolerize factor VIII and regaining its effect. And it's there when this nice guy comes in. And this project this is the development plan for the project. And this project is in the clinical study phase 1/2A. And we have written a study protocol, and the manufacture of the clinical study material is in place, and the clinical trial application will be submitted this year, and the start of the clinical study will be next year. And then we have the Ido T project, and that is within the indication of kidney transplantation. And as Anders said, this patient group needs lifelong immunosuppressive treatments. Otherwise, they will reject the organ and you get a graft loss. And there is a large medical need for reducing use of these immunosuppressants due to side effects like, for instance, high risk of developing malignancies, diabetes, and also infections. So the aim of this project is to educate the immune system to tolerate the kidney transplant and at the same time reduce or remove the need of these immunosuppressive medication, and there, of course, to reduce the side effects also. And this project is in this development phase, it's in the preclinical phase, and we are, of course, adapting the Idogen's technology platform, everything that we learned from the Ido 8 project. We have also a well-established advisory board for this project. And then we have the Ido 8 project, and that is for orphan autoimmune diseases. And as you know, there's a lot of autoimmune diseases out there, but we have specified on orphan disease with high unmet medical need to justify the treatment of our specific technology. And of course, we need to have a strong fit also with our cell platform. That means that we need to know the antigen, and we also need to know that it's T-cell driven. And there I hand over to Anders again.
Thank you, Åsa. Then I go into the organization. And we have a very experienced team in Idogen, a management team consisting of 8 persons. And in the last years, we have also then added on with the resources that is needed where we are now. Kristina Brattström is Chief Medical Officer with a background in transplantation. Vicky Venizelos is with a background from ATMPs and regulatory process, and Åsa, as you heard, has also background in transplantation since before. The other team has also long experience in this area for several years. Åsa was also mentioning our distinguished group of scientific advisors. We have leading persons in hemophilia. We have leading persons in safety assessment of this kind of therapies. We have specialists, global leaders in dendritic cells, 2 professors in the area of transplantation, surgery, Bojan Eriksson at Karolinska, and immunology, Jan Holgersson from Sahlgrenska, and also in autoimmune disease, we have Richard Williams. And also we have 2 of our founders in these as scientific advisors to Idogen. Key activities this year and ahead. We have mentioned most of them. We are in a preclinical phase. We are moving into a clinical. We have looked into the processes to manufacture. We are on our way to submit our CTA, which is an application for starting the clinical trial. And we aim at starting this around or slightly after year end this year. We are accelerating the IDOT project, adaptation of technology. We are performing preclinical studies and also assign an advisory board. The final point here is also that we are working very actively to update the big pharma companies, what we are doing, where we are in which state. And in end August, there will be a meeting called Bio Europe, where we usually are attending, where we also get an opportunity to discuss and share where we are with potential partners. So if we try to summarize what we have said, we have a proprietary technology with patent protection until 2040. We have a strong partner for high quality, large scale production, which will do our materials for the first clinical trial in Hemophilia A. We aim at getting into clinical for Ido 8 hemophilia very soon. And we're also looking for, as a next phase, into partnerships for the future, also to financing the further development of these projects. I think that was all from us.
Thanks a lot, Anders and Åsa. And just a couple of questions here on at the end. First of all, how does the typical hemophilia patient looks like? That's probably for you, Anders. And also, if you succeed, and we hope that, with your Idogen AB project that rolls into clinical phase very soon, when will you be able to be on the market if you assume a normal probability rate? And last but not least, we saw yesterday a bit on one of your competitors, Sobi, and how does their hemophilia product Elocta differs from Idogen AB? That's 3 questions. I hope you can answer them in a short period of time.
Yes, starting with the patients. I mean, these are boys or men. I mean, this is only us that is eligible for this disease. No woman. So that's number one. And I mean, they are in the age from early up to an age of you and me, Klaus.
Okay.
So today they have a different age. Yes.
And also a different race. It's not a matter of whether you're black, white, or yellow.
No, I have not seen that kind of figures. Maybe there is small deviations, but I mean the market that we are at, they are no. And then you asked about when can we be on the market? I mean, what we're doing now, planning is for a phase 1, phase 2. So that is so to say a combined safety, and we will also get some efficacy data potentially. They need to go into a phase 2 and a phase 3. So I mean that's difficult to say until you have so to say the design of these clinical trials. So I mean. If I say something, it will just be a guess, but around 2025, 2026, maybe. But I mean, do not use this as a truth. We need to assess that more depending on the route we go. And the final one, Elocta. I mean, that is a factor 8 treatment. So as Åsa explained nicely, I mean, 1/3 of these patients treated with this will develop antibodies towards Elocta. And then we can, with our treatment, potentially then take away the antibodies for Elocta. So you can continue with the Elocta treatment after you have created tolerance with our drug. So, I mean, it would be a perfect fit. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so an add-on actually, so you can combine the 2 drugs in a way.
I mean, if we are successful, we give our treatment and we create the tolerance for Elocta. And that means that you do not need, hopefully, to repeat our treatment. So therefore, maybe you need to refill. But our idea is to create long-term tolerance. So cure them from this. That's the same. Can you maybe add something more there, Åsa, on that?
No, I think you said it really clear.
Sorry, Åsa.
Yeah, I think you were really clear, Anders, that our main goal is actually to switch the immune system to tolerize treatment, and that is a sustained treatment. So it's not repeated.
Good. Thanks a lot, both of you, for your presentation. And we take a very short break, and then we hand over to the Elysera team. Thanks a lot.